All right, guys, welcome to Just a Little Salt, hosted by me, the Salty Paramedic. This is our very first episode. Very, very excited. I have my first guest with me, Patrick Pianezza. Did I say that right?
Pianezza.
Pianezza. See, I told you I was going to mess it up.
No worries.
Patrick, he is a co-writer of the new movie coming out, Code 3 in theaters, former paramedic. But I will let you introduce yourself to the audience. Just say who you are and what you've done.
Yeah, very excited to be here, especially on the first episode. So, like Cody mentioned, I'm Patrick Pianezza. I am the co-writer and tech consultant for the film Code 3 coming to theaters on September 12th. I am a paramedic. I'm still licensed and nationally registered. I'm licensed in the state of California and nationally registered. I was a paramedic for over a decade, and then I let it lapse, and I just recently picked it back up last year. So I was one for a dozen years, and then I wasn't, and now I got it back. And so there's a 10-year gap, but I am still nationally registered now. So my background's pretty interesting. I grew up in Central Illinois in a little town called Sherman. I was a member of the Sherman Volunteer Fire Department. I was actually too young to drive the ambulance, so the majority of my experience in Springfield was at a level 1 burn center and trauma center. And so I worked as an ER tech, and that really upped my medic skills. And then I transferred to South Carolina. So I got my associate's degree at Lincoln Land Community College while I was getting my paramedic. They were two separate programs there. And then I went to University of South Carolina, and I love telling everybody this, that if you think USC is in Southern California, you are incorrect. And I will defend that until the cows come home. I have my bachelor's degree in public relations. I then went into grad school and did a master's degree in healthcare administration. And that entire time I was working concurrently as a paramedic crew chief for Lexington County EMS. And then I was also working as a campus medic at USC for kind of fun and just getting out and meeting people and stuff like that. And then from there, moved to Baltimore. I did my postgraduate externship at Johns Hopkins Hospital and their human resources department. And then because they were paying us like interns, I was also on their critical care transport team. So I was a member of Lifeline at Johns Hopkins as well for that year. And then moved to California. And at that point, I kind of let my medic go and had been working in hospital administration, program management, patient experience for about the last 12 years or so. So that's a very brief professional resume of what I do. I'm married. I have a corgi. My brother is a producer on the film, and things are great.
That's awesome. So real quick, what got you into writing and just movies and stuff like that?
It's actually funny. Like, I didn't grow up dreaming of being a Hollywood writer or being a movie writer or anything like that. I always had a knack for it. And like I said before, my undergraduate degree is in public relations, which really honed the writing skills, because everything in PR is based on writing, and it's about getting your message out concisely. And so there is certainly a massive creative aspect to it, but it's more about getting your message out concisely, making sure that it's hitting the notes. Because in PR, you're basically hoping someone will pick up and fill in all the details. I just want to get your attention and give you enough details to understand what's going on, and then hopefully a journalist will pick it up and think like, oh, this will make an interesting story, and I want to delve into it. My whole goal in life, especially starting out, is I just wanted to go be a PIO. That's exactly what I wanted to do. That's why I got my undergrad in PR. I wanted to be the guy in front of the camera going, hey, the fire is over here, and here's what
Yep.
we did. And I actually interned as the public information officer for Lexington County for a summer, so that was fun too. But to get back to your question, I took a creative writing class, which was required for my degree, and I kind of laughed it off and was kind of like, okay, great, like this is not where my passion was, but I figured why not. And the professor, like the first or second day of class, kind of came in and said one of the most cliche things you'll ever hear, but it was the first time I had ever heard it. And he said, write what you know. And I had just came off this hellacious 14-hour shift, and the only thing that came off in my brain was, oh, you want a story? I'll tell you a story. And I went home and just cranked out this 36-page short story. It was almost like I was possessed, and just all of the thoughts. And it wasn't even just about that night. It was just like my brain was on fire. It was like, okay, you want a story? I got one for you. And so I wrote that, submitted it. It was literally a college assignment. And then flash forward to 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, I'm visiting my brother who lives in LA. And he just kind of jokingly said, why don't you just write a script? He said, you've got that short story. Why don't you write a script about it? And I was kind of laughing about it. And I said, okay, fine. Why not? I'm in Hollywood. I'll do the Hollywood thing. And so I did. I basically took that short story and made it into a script. And it was garbage. That first draft is absolute trash. But we had it, and the joke was, especially like around the holidays and things like this, I'm sure you've done this with family members. Everybody's asking, what's the craziest thing you've seen? And tell me about, or you just come and tell a story, and everybody's like, there's no way, you're making that shit up, kind of stuff. And so all of us have these stories in us. I just happened to write one down, and the script went from a fever dream, basically, and my brother and Chris Leone, who's the director of the movie and the co-writer, were co-workers at this film house in LA. And so my brother kind of went up to Chris, and they'd been friends for a bit. And he said, hey, Chris, do you want to read a script? To which Chris emphatically said, absolutely not, which is the right answer, by the way. Like, you're never more than 20 feet away from an unsolicited script in LA. Mm-hmm. So Chris's answer was 100% correct. And he was just like, no, not reading it. And he said, well, what's it about? And he said, it's about being a paramedic. And, what's your brother know about being a paramedic? Well, he is one, da-da-da. And so the shorter version of this story is that ultimately Chris lost a bet to my brother. And his penalty for losing the bet was he had to read the script. And he liked it enough to say that there's something there. And then we met for the first time like 12 or 14 years ago, kind of sat in a room. And there's a line in the movie, which is, I was in the first meeting we had with him, and he said, tell me why I should be involved in a movie about paramedics. And I said, well, I know what brains smell like. And he was just completely hooked. And Chris is a writer first and an amazing person. We've become very close friends over the past 12 years of working on this script together. And it was never a full-time project. Like, Chris is very busy in his career, obviously writing and directing. And we would touch base every couple of months. Hey, here's what do you think about this? This isn't working. We have to break this. Let's fix this kind of stuff. And then, like I said, 12, 14 years later, we got the script to a really good place where both of us were really excited about it. It got into Rainn's hands. Rainn read it, really liked it, and Rainn really kind of got us the rest of the way. He got us Wayfair, which is a studio, which got us financing, and then we were off to the races. And so it was literally nothing happens for like 15 years, and then all of a sudden the brakes fall off, and you are like off to the races.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you took a creative writing class, and then that just turned into a movie that's about to be released. I'm sure you still can't wrap your head around how all that happened.
It was a homework assignment. Like, the very original thing was a homework assignment that is now a movie.
and your brother helped out with the bit. I mean, it's just it's crazy how everything aligned, and that's great. I mean, for those listening right now, I've watched the movie, and it is a great movie. You all did a terrific job on the script. Rainn Wilson plays a disgruntled burnout paramedic, wonderfully. I mean, it's to a T. It's crazy. So, talking about the movie real quick, were there any particular cases or calls or real life incidents that kind of directly influenced the plot, you would say?
Absolutely. So the first thing I tell everybody is that this film is not an autobiography. The main character's name is Randy. It's not Patrick for that one of the many reasons. But the characters themselves are an amalgamation of it's definitely like 85% me, no question. Like, it's from my perspective. And the calls that you're talking about it's never one call in particular. So, for instance, we have a patient that's having a mental health crisis, and so we've all had that patient, right? And so it's not, John Doe who lives on this street and that's the guy who the movie's about. It's about kind of like these systematic issues that we see in EMS and are forced to contend with in real time. So whether the system supports it or supports us or the care that's needed, I think is something that everyone can relate to. And so, yeah, there are very poignant moments in this film that are based on real world events, but no one call was the driving force for it. It's kind of, again, a 12-year career boiled down into 24 hours.
Yes.
And the other thing I do want to the one thing I do want to really highlight here is that we work extremely hard, and Chris and I were dog fast on these two things. Number one, the patient is never the butt of the joke. Like, yes, there are setups, there are things that are hilarious that are inherent to the work, and I think a lot of the people in our community will just see that kind of instantaneously. Mm-hmm. But the patient is never the joke, right? Yes. Like there's a huge difference between Super Troopers and what we're doing, and I love Super Troopers. I mean, I'm not no shade to them, but we were very set on the patient's not the joke. There are setups, there are things, there's situations, there's things that are funny, but it's not the person in crisis. I'm famous for saying, I don't get to pick your emergency. You need help, I'm here. We're here to do a job and help you out. The other thing is that we were dogged on making sure that it was medically accurate. Like, their hands are where they're supposed to be. The monitors are accurate for the situations that the people are in. The protocols that we used are as close to 2020 protocols as we could do. So as much as we could, it's medically accurate to the time it was shot. So I know that in 50 years, protocols will change.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh my God, you guys are nuts. It's for today.
No, and everything you just touched on after watching the movie, you're completely accurate. I won't go into detail, but that psych patient scene, you were very, very true in saying that he wasn't the butt of the joke. You all did a great job showing, how us as providers need to show compassion on scene. And we're around these patients all the time, so we know how to handle them and truly take care of them. Also, the entertainment aspect. So I noticed, like you said, everything was very medically accurate, and all the type of runs that Randy experienced in the movie were accurate runs. They weren't the other type of movies I've seen that are just off the wall and, Hollywood, explosions and everything. It's truly like down to earth. And that's why I think it resonated so much to me. So how did you balance that authenticity, but also maintain a, entertainment aspect to keep the audience engaged?
Well, one of the funniest things is Chris would have this line when we were talking, because I would go on and like prophetically be like, oh, we need to include all of these little details that literally no one else in the world would care about except us.
Yes.
And his line was, we're not making a documentary. And he's absolutely right. Like, he is an entertainer first. And so it was, I promised myself I wouldn't read the comments. And of course I lied, and I read some of them. And some of the comments are like, how many lift assists are there in the movie? And it's just like, I think I actually replied under somebody, and I was just like, no one wants to see an hour and a half movie about lift assist. And so there definitely was that balance. There was a lot of stuff that hit the cutting room floor where we went in. There's an intubation sequence. And the intubation sequence that we shot is like 2 minutes long, and you've seen the final cut. What the audience sees is literally just the blade pulling out, and they're checking lung sounds. But originally it was not animated. Like, you're not actually seeing the chords, but I mean, it was kind of like this monotonous, like, here's how we do this and here's why it's done kind of thing. We did a similar shot for a simple IV prep. And we kind of showed, one of the things that Chris really liked visually was this idea of like the trash pile that piles up in the truck, right? Like, especially when you start an IV, there's so much garbage and plastic that just gets generated for what essentially is a needle and a tube of saline. But yes, the pile of trash is like this big. And so we thought it was hilarious, and we actually shot it. And it's just this sequence of like all of the bits hitting the floor of the truck. And it's just, like the Tegaderm, the thing that surrounds the saline, the little plastic sleeve of saline, the IV tubing, the thing that holds your IV needle, the cap, the thing you rip up, and it's just all of these bits of trash that are kind of floating gently to the floor. And it was beautiful. It was cinematic. It's one of those things that you would probably see in an art house film. But from an entertaining perspective, we were just like, we don't need that. And while it's pretty, it's also not serving the plot. And we would always go back to what serves the story. And while it's a telling thing and it's kind of a wink to the people who do the job, it's not moving the story forward. And so ultimately, you have to be just ruthless on things that you think are great, but if it's not serving the story, then it's got to go.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So while on set, did you all have any other first responders to bounce ideas off of other than yourself?
A few times. So there's always a set medic on whenever you're shooting something, especially something that's budgeted.
Yep.
Our movie was a $7.5 million budget. So because it was union, there was required to be a set medic. And so it wasn't always the same person, but I'd always go introduce myself and kind of tell them what it was that we were doing. And, he or she, I would just say, hey, if you see something, because I've been out of the game for a bit, like, talk to me. Like, I'm not telling you to go talk to the director, but if you see something that's like, wait, that doesn't look right, let us know or let me know, and we can kind of check and adjust. But more importantly, I had the people that the characters are named after. So Randy is named after my paramedic instructor, who came to set for a day or two, and it was really great to be able to share that with him. And then Mike is a guy that I was my old partner back in Illinois, and he came to set, and it was probably one of the most intensive scenes, medically intensive scenes. So I was really glad to have him there, because we had to teach the actors how to do a lot. I'm trying not to spoil things. They had to do a lot of stuff, and they had to do it right. And so it was really great to have a second set of hands. And the funny thing about that is, him and I, before they even started shooting, Mike and I kind of went off and we're like, all right, cool. So here's the scenario, here's all the stuff that we have to play with. So how would we do it? And so Mike had been a paramedic the whole time. He's a fireman, full-time fireman in Springfield. And I was admittedly a little rusty. Like I said, I hadn't worked for quite a while. And so I was like, all right, so here's what I'm thinking. And we basically ran the call like we used to back when we were on the ambulance together. And so we just kind of looked around and nodded at each other like, yeah, that works. Okay, cool. And so then we took what we did and we shared it with the cast. And we were like, all right, guys, here's what this looks like in real time. Boom, 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 boom. And all three of them were just like, no, you have to explain that to us in much, because again, instinctively, for those of us that are doing the job, like, you're reaching for this, you're pulling that, you know where the stuff is, and you know what your next step is going to be. They don't, and that's not a knock against them. They aren't trained for this type of work. And one of them told me, which really light bulb moment, and I'm glad they did it early on in the shoot, was, think about this like a dance. Like, you have to tell us right foot here, left hand here, like. And one of them goes, we don't care about the medicine part of it. Like, we're just literally doing a thing for the camera. So, like, tell us where to put our hands and what to do. And that was really eye-opening for me from a performer standpoint, because it's very different than the medical standpoint. Like, we are doing a million different things in our heads. And then I was like, oh yeah, like, this is not a real thing. We're making this up. This is Hollywood. This person's not going to live or die regardless of what we're doing. It's a picture. And so we get to fudge a little bit as far as like the double checking and things like that. But it was having them walk through all of that stuff and making it very clear, like, you will put your hand here, then you will put your hand here, versus in medicine, it's like, what do the lungs sound like? All the other things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, my wife was laughing at me while I was watching the movie. I was just like, looking at little details like that, like hand placements and everything. I was like, they really nailed a lot of things, because when she watches things like Grey's Anatomy, I like to nitpick and everything like that. But y'all did a good job on all that. But so moving on, mental health is huge for me. I wrote a book about it. I talk a lot about it on my social media and everything amongst first responders. And how do you think the movie addresses the toll the job takes on mental health?
Well, we come right out and talk about it at the beginning. Like the entire setup is that Randy is a burned out paramedic, and that was me. I mean,
Yep.
I've got no shame in it. I went through a ton of therapy to become what I consider normal again. But I was, 19 to 27 ish year old, and dealing with the stress of the job. And back then, there was no. I mean, they said they had critical incident stress debriefing, but the reality is like it didn't. It was kind of like stop whining, get back on the truck. In fact, a line that got cut from the film that was a real thing that happened to me, and I'm not calling out names because I don't blame this person. They just didn't have a better answer for it. But I remember going to them, and this person was in leadership at the time, and I said, "Look, man, I'm really burning out, and one of the things I used to pride myself on when I was on the truck is that I was always really good at IVs, right? Like, it didn't matter if you were a dialysis patient, like for whatever reason, I was gifted in being able to start lines. And I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn for like a week straight. And I was just like, listen, I've got a problem. Like, I know something's wrong. Like, I know I'm burnt out. I'm not happy. I don't want to be here. Something's up. And this individual just kind of laughed in this really dark way. And he said, we're all burnt out. Get back on the truck. And that was the first and last time I ever asked for help while I was working. Because it wasn't, I was very, very fortunate. I never struggled with drug addiction or alcoholism, but it's certainly easy to see how someone could turn down that path. And that doesn't
Absolutely.
make me better than anyone who is struggling with those issues. It's, for whatever reason, it just wasn't something that I went into. Now, I think my social skills would probably be where, I fell off the cliff as opposed to drugs and alcohol. But yeah, we come out and we talk about it, but we worked really hard to say we don't know what the answer is, right? Like there's critical incident stress debriefing. There's some really innovative programs that are very proactive, that are like, if you run a pediatric arrest, there's an automatic text message that gets sent to crew nowadays. That's like, hey, is this something you want to talk about? Back then, it was just kind of like, cool, get resupplied and get back on the road. And so I remember getting into an argument with someone when I was in college. And like I said, I work night shift on the county truck. So, all the fun that 911 has to offer. And then I'm going to college during the day. So from like 9 to 4, I'm in college classes. And then 7 to 7, I'm on the truck. And I remember somebody just freaking out about a mean comment. The professor was short with them, and I was fairly close with this person. And they were just like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe the day I had." And I was just like, "It's not that bad. You're fine." And they kept nitpicking at me. And I remember I took it like I was being assaulted by it. And I literally just looked at this person and said, "I just declared a family dead last night. Could you leave me alone? Like, we're not on the same path. I don't care if you get a B. I don't care if you get an A in this class. Like, we are not on the same page." And so the mental health toll that this job takes is very real. And, like I said, I didn't realize I knew I was burnt out, but I didn't realize how really kind of broken I was until I got out of the job, and then realized that, hey, like I needed to go to therapy and like I said, become normal again. Because I was not a nice person. I was not a friendly person to be around for multiple years. But we worked really hard to not be parochial about it, but we also don't shy away from it. Like, hey, there's a problem here. It stems from pay. It starts with pay. It's literally one of the first things we call out, because especially in private services, it's tough to make a living with all of the training and everything else that you have to upkeep and live your life. And then, you get a glimpse, what I would call the normal population gets a glimpse into what this job is like and what it is that we deal with. Granted, it's certainly cartoonish. This is like the shift from hell that no one would really run in 24 hours. But that stuff is additive. And so, over the years, it certainly takes a significant toll.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So this movie follows the main character, Randy, throughout a 24-hour shift. He's, been doing the job 18 plus years. And, you see all these runs he goes on, and he's obviously starts a movie disgruntled, but that one run sets him off, and he has that speech at the end really resonated with me, and it just, you'll have to go see the movie for everybody watching to see that speech, but just, I mean, what he captured there, it was just like, I've been there before. I just want to tell everybody, go away. I want to be by myself. I'm done with this. And it's y'all did an excellent job with it. That's all I got to say about that.
That speech, I mean, I certainly, don't get me wrong, I certainly want everybody to go see the movie.
Yeah.
But that speech that you're talking about is really the thing that, not just you, but the people that have seen the film, it seems that anybody who's done the job for like 3 years plus is like, that was the whole, like, that could have been the whole movie. It could have been that 2-minute sequence.
Yes. It was just 2 minutes, but what it captured was truly crazy. So moving on this movie. So do you see the film as more of a tribute to first responders, critique of the whole system in general, or both?
It's certainly a both and. And so when we talk about this this film is my love letter to EMS. That was how it was originally started. Well, it's not how it started, but it was really kind of how it evolved. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful, and I think that really once I kind of clued into like that's what this film is. Love is complicated, and it means that you kind of call out all of the warts and you celebrate the things that it is. And for me, when I talk about my career in EMS, I have done some really amazing, incredible things, and especially as a young adult, to have those rare moments where somebody was dead and now they're alive. That's pretty cool. But the vast majority of things are pretty routine, like everybody else who knows. The belly pains, the back pains, we kind of do things and people turn into paperwork. So part of the idea of this film is I want people who do the job to feel recognized, seen, and appreciated. And so that to me is the biggest thing. And then the other part too is we do go hard at what we perceive as some of the main problems. And I'm using the term we kind of globally, myself and Chris and the producers. And we worked really hard to not be parochial about it. And so we'll talk about, we come out and we say it explicitly, hey, pay is a problem.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about pay being the problem, that's just, and it's a very simple statement, but then we start talking about reimbursement rates from the federal government or from insurance companies and the hours that are worked and the amount of training required and the upkeep and the overhead. Like, these problems are ginormous, and no 90-minute movie is going to fix even that simple, what I would consider the pay problem. But then you have obviously burnout, fatigue, you've got lack of staffing, you've got the emergency room, nursing shortage. I mean, The Pit, the TV show The Pit, if you haven't seen it, huge, amazing show. They did an amazing job in their first season. But the funniest bit is I just finished watching it. And we were done. So we ended filming probably 2 weeks before the strikes. So we were completely done, and then it went to edit and all the things that movies have to go through. And The Pit started filming after the strikes, but they got on TV first. And so for anybody who's seen both of them, I was teasing my wife. I was like, they stole that from our movie. They never saw it. But we were done first, and so that's my claim to it. But yeah, so like I said, it is a tribute. It absolutely is a tribute. I want people who do the job to feel seen and recognized and appreciated. I want to bring the audience in that has no idea about what goes on in the big box truck that drives down the truck with the giant Christmas tree. And we also want to we want to have a frank conversation, or at least invite the conversation of like, hey, the system is broken. There's no way you could look objectively at the American healthcare system and say it's perfect. It absolutely is not. It is fractured and broken in a bazillion different ways. And it's no longer sustainable to just put our head in the sand and say it'll fix itself. It won't. Yes. It's going to require a lot of active effort.
Yes. And hopefully that'll bring, open a lot of people's eyes and, start a change. So talking about, that dark humor that we have to get through the day, and that camaraderie we have to have with our partners and our other people at our stations to do this type of job. How important was it to show that humor and the camaraderie that helps the crews get through the tough days in the movie?
You have to. I mean, number one, it's authentic. It's like I said, it's part of the job. Like I said, if you've been doing this job for any length of time, the humor gets dark very quickly. And I would argue that some of that in small doses is healthy. It's almost necessary. I think you start to get into trouble when it's your only personality trait.
Absolutely. 100%.
So to answer your question more directly, it's authentic. It's what really happens in real life. But the other part too is, unless you're going to go see like a horror or snuff film, like nobody wants to just see the blood and guts and, these grizzled people that don't have personalities. Like, these people are they're partners. They they laugh together. I'm not ruining anything. It's in the trailer. In fact, there's the bit of like, you act like I'm your best friend. And he's like, I am his best friend. Because we spend more time with these people in a cab than most humans will spend outside of their significant others. And so, there's a natural, you hope you get along with those people and that things are great. But you develop a relationship, whether that's a functional relationship or not, not outside of my area of expertise. But that's why we had to do it. The best way to tell the story, especially with some of the heartbreak and some of the drama, is you have to use humor to cut through it. And there are lines that have been cut that go really really deeper and darker than what made the final cut. And Chris and I both felt the weight of some of those lines. I know this is kind of like Hollywood being Hollywood, but we wanted that really kind of that thump to the chest, and we basically got outvoted by people who paid for the film. So,
Gotcha.
It's their money. But we went straight to the bone, and some of it was really cutting and really dark, but we were also like, this is what we talk about. This is what happens.
Absolutely.
So unfortunately, it's going to stay locked up with, us in the original script, but we tried to be really honest about it.
So the movie addresses a lot of the unseen challenges that EMS has to face, day in, day out. What do you think the movie can teach the public about some of these challenges?
Again, I think it's calling out the pay issues, the overwhelming of the system that occurs. We wanted to do something about hold times at the ER. We there's a nod to that, but like holding the wall at an emergency room, obviously no one's going to want to watch a movie of Rainn standing up against the wall for 30 minutes. So we can't call that out. But again, these are really knotty issues that are, there's no one simple fix, right? And so what we hope people see is like the vast majority of the people that do this job are in it for the right reasons. We even say it like, I got into EMS because I wanted to help people. That's why I got into EMS for that reason, and because I thought I wanted to go be a doctor. Like, I wanted to go to med school since I was 6 years old. I wanted to go be a doctor. And when I found EMS, I was like, cool, I'll do this. It'll look good on a resume, and maybe I'll be useful if something bad ever happens. And then I took that to 12 years. And I found out I was allergic to organic chemistry. So, my medical career stopped in college. But it's what I want people, the general public who doesn't know anything about it, is to understand the skill set and the level of things that happen that paramedics are trained to, and EMTs and advanced EMTs and everybody else, that we're there to triage, treat, transport in a way that is highly protocolized, that is meant to save your life, and gain an appreciation for that skill set. Because I wrote an article years ago for EMS World, and the title of the article is "Do We Deserve to Be Called Ambulance Drivers?" And I know that there's some people that just gagged who are listening to this, but I think there's some truth to that. I still maintain that article is accurate, because I don't think we as a profession do enough to educate the public about what it is that we do. How many times have you been in the back of the truck and gave a drug or started reading ECGs and they were just like, you can do that? And they're all surprised. That tells me we're not doing anywhere near enough public outreach to share with people. Number one, hey, this is a job you can do. Check out this cool stuff. Look at this cool truck. Look at all my cool toys. But yeah, I also know what I'm doing. And here's how we do things back here. And
No.
so, yeah, it's certainly a recruitment tool for EMS as well. I mean, like I said, it does get dark, but the other part is to highlight and emphasize EMS and also recruit people into the job to be able to see by seeing what it's really like, by being honest about it.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I live stream a lot, and I'll have people come across my stream and they have no idea about, EMS and how really easy it is to get into the field. And they're like, I've wanted to do this since I was little. I was like, well, you just have to do this, X, Y, and Z. And they're just dumbfounded that it's that easy. So, uh, so talking about writing that script, going through and writing it, was there any particular scenes that kind of got emotional for you, like, brought up a certain call or anything like that?
Oh yeah, the ghosts are real. I mean, anytime when I've seen this movie at least 200 times at this point, like different cuts of the film and everything
Yeah.
else. And let me be clear, I'm not the director. Chris is the director, but I
Mhm.
also had access to a lot of the scenes and as we were shooting and stuff. So I've seen this film literally 100 times. Um, but yeah, I still tear up at certain moments because it's like they're just flash memories. Like you can, it's not about suppressing those things, but yeah, even writing it was kind of like I would get into like a flow, and I'm writing something, and it would be like point by point from my memory, and it's like, all right, well, it can't be about John Doe, and it's like, well, what else have I seen? And it's like, okay, well, tie this one in and tie a little bit of this in, and again, it's that balance of yeah, this is real, but this doesn't serve the plot, so we'll throw that out, and then we'll bring this in. Um, and they all stem from reality. Like nothing in this movie was, wouldn't it be cool if we mounted a gun turret to an ambulance kind of thing? um, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, there's even watching it because I know what these scenes herald from. Yeah, it still triggers me a little bit. I'll be like, ooh, yeah, that sucks, or yeah, I
Mhm.
remember. I know exactly what we were going for on this scene, and that reminds me of that thing. And yeah, it's like it either puts a pit in my stomach or it makes me smile or chuckle or whatever. So you can't get away from that. And I think that is all. I'm hoping that comes through on the screen to other people that have ran similar calls.
Oh yeah, no, the movie resonated with me on multiple levels. So great job on that. So in closing, do you have any aspirations to continue writing, whether it be movies, TVs, whatever? I know the
Oh, I'd
movie's
love to.
about to come out, but yeah, okay,
Yeah, I mean that's the dream, right? To go from and to be clear, like I am incredibly lucky. I tell people all the time that you have to be good, right? Like there's this is not me going, oh gee whiz, I just got really lucky. Like you have to be good, and I know I'm a
yeah,
good writer, but there are people out there that are much better writers than I am that unfortunately are never going to get their shot, and for any number of reasons. But you have to be at least this good. Once you're this good, then you just got to get lucky, and then it's like, then how do you get your break? Like for me, my brother and Chris happened to work together, and Chris lost a bet. Like, you couldn't. I mean, that itself is its own movie. Um, but if my writing was trash, Chris would have read it and thrown it in the dumpster and been like, I don't care. So you have to be good and then you have to get lucky. So the goal is certainly to keep up this streak. I would love nothing more than to turn Code 3 into like an episodic kind of TV show or limited series or something like that. That would be incredible. Um, I've also got a couple other projects that I've written. My brother and I are working on like this animated healthcare thing where we really lampoon the American healthcare system, and out pitching that stuff. The great news for me personally is because of this film, I did get into the Writers Guild of America, the union for writers in LA. I also got into SAG-AFTRA, which is the actors union and guild. So these things allowed me to open doors that can get me in the room to pitch these projects.
yes,
Um, so the short answer is yes, I would love to make this my career until I retire.
mm-hmm.
And the flip side is like, we are not millionaires. Nobody got paid $1 million on this film that I know of. The
Yeah.
writers certainly didn't. Let me tell you that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm still working a regular job and trying to see what the next thing is.
Hmm. Well, anybody watching this right now that has dreams, write their own movie like you, or anything in film, what would be your advice to them right now?
Just do it. The only way to get good at, especially writing, is to write. Like I said, my first draft of the script, and the short story was a college assignment, so that was garbage. Like it was literally a homework assignment. But that first draft of script from what it was to what it is only got better because we kept writing. And it's a different skill set. It's a completely different way of writing, from writing a novel to writing a movie script. They're very, very different. But the only way to get good at it is to do it. And don't ask for permission. That was the biggest thing. For me personally, that was one of the biggest hills for me to climb, is I kept waiting for somebody to say, you can do this. Like, you could go ahead and try it. Like, no, just jump in. It could be garbage, and it will be garbage. I'm telling you, like, it's going to be trash. But you get better at it by taking criticism when it's warranted, and refining what it is that you're working on, whether that's acting or writing or any other artistic, painting, anything like that. Like, the only way to get good at it is to do it. And don't ask for permission, and take pride in your work. Like, understand that the first draft is garbage, but you did something that the person that's on the couch didn't do. So give yourself some grace there. And if you're lucky enough to get a mentor like I did, and they're like, the third act doesn't work, like, and it's somebody you respect, listen to them and then try to fix what their problem is with it. And then you'll find yourself getting better and better and sharper and sharper. And that's how you get good at it. But you don't have to make it your whole personality. You don't have to make it a full-time job. Like, certainly I didn't. It was one of those things that I did part-time, but continuously working on it as best you can is how you get good at it.
Great advice. Yeah, I make short form content. My skits are no more than 2 minutes long, so my scripts are like little bitty things on Notes app. But I think you inspired me. I might get me a nice camera and try to do longer content. We'll see. So, in closing, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
I really hope that anybody who's listening gets a chance to see it, and I hope you like it. And if you don't, I'd like to hear about it either way. But I've made videos in the past, and the most important thing is what I want everyone to hear about this, especially your audience, is that from a guy who has done that job for multiple years, is thank you for what you do. I know for a fact that you will not hear it enough, either be it from the public or even from your leadership. But I want you to hear it from me, because I don't work in an ambulance anymore. I don't work on a fire truck or anything like that. But regardless of whether you go see my movie, whether you like it or hate it, or you don't like me, I don't care. I do, whoever you are. Thank you for the hours that you put in, for the training that you've worked really hard on, for your credentials, and the work that you do. Because I know from personal experience that it's a thankless job sometimes. And so if you get nothing else out of this, hear me when I say thank you for everything that you guys do out there.
Well, it's been great. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick Pianezza. I messed it up again. There it is. Well, everybody make sure to go see the movie Code 3 in theaters September 13th. Is that correct? 12th. September 12th in theaters. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned to the next episode.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.